Welcome to Hot Springs, Arkansas, home to stunning Hot Springs National Park and the birthplace of spring training. This is where baseball history was made that changed the game forever. Hot Springs has a wild past, once ruled by gangsters, corrupt politicians, bootleggers, and even illegal casinos. So join me as we hit the trails and the town for an epic run through history, legends, and of course, a cold beer at the only brewery inside a national park. Along the way, I've got you covered. Whether you need the perfect spot for your morning coffee, a bite to eat, or a mid-run sip of water to keep you going, I'll highlight some must-see attractions. And if you left that extra pair of running socks at home, don't worry. I'll tell you exactly where to pick up another pair. Time to lace up and let's go. So let's talk about the route today. We're going to head down the road here, going to briefly dip into town, and then we're going to jump on a trail connector into the east side of the national park. We'll climb up to the observation tower, take a quick look around at the overlook there, then we're going to drop down to Bathhouse Row. We'll run through there, jump on another connector to the west side of the national park, and we're going to climb through there. We'll drop down, head over to the Alligator farm and some interesting history around baseball, and then we'll make our way back to the Airbnb. All right, we're approaching our first encounter with gangster activity. This is the Vapors Nightclub, which opened in 1960 by Oni Madden, a notorious gangster from New York City who previously operated the Cotton Club. It was a nightclub and an illegal casino. At the time, it hosted 2 shows a night and featured some of the biggest acts of the time, like Tony Bennett, Liberace, and even old Blue Eyes himself, Frank Sinatra. Vapors was the poshest nightclub between New York and LA. Now, in 1963, an explosion rocked the nightclub. You'll have to stick around later in the run to find out what happened. Fat Jack's Oyster Bar. Over my shoulder is Kollective Coffee and Tea, a great place to grab a cup of coffee before your run or a quick bite to eat. Up ahead is the Arlington Hotel. Good gangster history there we'll talk about later. But we're making our turn, gonna go up this hill, and we'll head into the national park. Here's our trail connector. Pretty steep going up here. And we're gonna head into the park. And then we'll talk a little bit about the park's history. So Hot Springs is named after the 47 thermal springs that are sprinkled around the area. And those springs produce over 700,000 gallons of water every single day. And that water, when it comes out of the ground, is 143 degrees Fahrenheit. And the water that's coming out of the ground today is 4,000 years old. So it started as rainwater 4,000 years ago, made its way through the ground, got heated up, and came back to the surface. The Native Americans were here long before the national park existed, and they used the thermal springs as a neutral ground, so even warring tribes could gather in peace to bathe and soak in the thermal springs. So long before the establishment of the national park system, Andrew Jackson in 1832 designated Hot Springs as the first federal land reservation. And then eventually in 1921, Hot Springs became America's 18th national park. Hot Springs National Park is America's smallest national park at 5,500 acres, but it still attracts millions of visitors every year due to the hot springs and other local attractions. Hot Springs National Park is unique in that it was established to protect a natural resource, the hot springs, rather than protecting wildlands or wildlife. About to cross the road here, and then we will start the climb up these switchbacks to the observation tower. Here we go, switchbacks. Another unique thing about Hot Springs National Park is it is the only park that has a brewery in it. We're gonna go there later and we'll talk a lot more about it then. Hot Springs National Park is also one of the few urban parks, so it kind of wraps itself around the city of Hot Springs itself. So right from downtown, as you can see, we're able to jump on trails.
I've heard people make disparaging remarks about how Hot Springs shouldn't be a national park, but remember, it was established to protect the springs. You can't come to Hot Springs expecting to be Yellowstone, but you can still find plenty to do in and around the park. The park itself has 26 miles of trail as well as a campground and some fishing. Outside the park, there's over 31 miles of mountain bike trails at Northwoods Trails, and Lake Hamilton is just south of town.
We've almost made it to the top. You can see observation tower through the trees up there. We'll be there in a minute.
Hot Springs Mountain Tower is 216 feet tall. The open-air observation deck gives guests 360-degree views of the Wichita Mountains, Hot Springs National Park, and the Diamond Lakes area. Admission is about $14, but there are some discounted rates for certain guests.
Time to head down to Bathhouse Row. We're gonna take the shortcut trail down, which is pretty steep, as you'll see. Let's go. Bathhouse Row was established in the early 20th century. All of the bathhouses are still there, but most of them have been renovated and serve other purposes today. Some of them serve as the park headquarters. There's the Superior Bathhouse Brewery, and there's some other ones. But the Buckstaff Bathhouse has been continually operating since 1912. Making our way down toward the promenade. We're going to take a look at the old hospital over here.
The Army and Navy General Hospital was originally built in 1887 for a cost of $100,000. The original wooden structure was replaced in 1933 with the structure that's standing today. The hospital was built at this location to take advantage of the treatment the hot springs could provide certain ailments.
Headed down to the promenade, down the steps. Heading down the promenade, and then we'll be on Bathhouse Row, which is right down there.
there are a number of these fountains around downtown where you can fill your water. This one's actually hot. The one down there where you can see people filling water is a cold one. We're gonna refill our water in a little while at the Whittington hot spring on the other side of the park. All right, we are officially on Bathhouse Row downtown. This is the park store. If you need to refill some water, there's actually a water fountain inside there as well. Buckstaff Bath. We just passed the Buckstaff Bathhouse. That's the one that's been continually operating since 1912. The Quapaw Bath is an operating bathhouse as well. You can see some people waiting in line to get in. This is one of the bathhouses that was renovated to the visitor center. And we're back at the promenade. We were up there earlier. Up here on the left is the Ohio Club, which is the oldest bar in all of Arkansas. That was also a hotspot for gangster activity. There's the Ohio Club right there. Here is Superior Bathhouse Brewery. So normally I would grab a beer mid-run, but it is not open yet, so we'll have to come back later and grab a beer.
Built in 1916, the Superior operated as a bathhouse in downtown Hot Springs until its closure in 1983. After lying vacant for 30 years, current owner Rose Schweikert reimagined the Superior Bathhouse into a craft brewery with a full-service family restaurant. Construction began in the late spring of 2013, and today the Superior Bathhouse is home to not just the only brewery in a U.S. national park, but the only brewery in the world to utilize thermal hot spring water in their beer. Superior has 18 beers on draft, as well as a few secret taps. You can buy by the pint, growlers to go, 4-ounce taster, or do a beer bath, which is a 4-ounce taster of all 18 beers. Superior also has a full menu of food and is dog-friendly, both inside and out. Speaking of outside, the patio is spacious and a great place for a beer on a nice day. Before we jump back into the run, another place not too far from Bathhouse Row to grab a beer is SQZBX. It's a brewery and a pizza joint with a nice dog-friendly patio out back. Another great place in town to check out. Okay, now let's get back to that run.
Once we clear these trees, you will see the Arlington Hotel, which was a favorite hideout of Al Capone. He would use it to escape the authorities in Chicago. He would rent out an entire floor. There were tunnels from the Arlington to the casinos and bars, which allowed Al Capone to move around town without being detected.
The local running store is Run Stop. This is a great place to grab any running related items you might have forgotten, grab some nutrition for your long run, or inquire about upcoming races.
Okay, we finished Bathhouse Row in downtown. We're gonna head up this little connector into Hot Springs National Park, the west side. So the section of trail we're on now, it's actually an old road that used to connect two different parts of towns back before the combustion engine. So this was used for carriages drawn by horses and other livestock. The wall up ahead is actually part of an old firing range. Now, the place where people actually fired their guns was not in the national park, but this wall is in the national park, and this is where they actually set up the targets. This firing range was actually called the National Rifle Range and was open for over 100 years. It allowed patrons to shoot at targets up to 300 feet away, and it attracted baseball greats like Babe Ruth and gangsters like Lucky Luciano, and crowds would come and gather around and watch them shoot things. And by the time this place closed down, there were piles of glass and fragments of targets that were 12 feet high. Since we just talked about guns and Lucky Luciano, I guess it's time to dive into that gangster history. From the 1920s all the way through the 1960s, Hot Springs was a hub for organized crime, illegal gambling, and bootlegging. The local corrupt politicians allowed all of this to happen under their watch as long as violence didn't erupt. So Hot Springs became a neutral zone where members of competing organizations and crime syndicates could gather, bathe, and partake in illegal activities without the fear of violence. Some of the places they would gather are the aforementioned Vapors Nightclub, as well as the Southern Club and the Ohio Club, which is the oldest continually operating bar in all of Arkansas.
I took a quick scenic break at the West Mountain Overlook, which gives you a great aerial view of both downtown Hot Springs and Bathhouse Row. Now, let's get back to those gangsters.
Hot Springs was a major hub for bootleggers during Prohibition. And a lot of the bootleggers would actually go sit and soak in the thermal hot springs to sweat out all the toxins from the alcohol they drank. If you want to learn more about the criminal and gangster activity that happened in Hot Springs, there's a Gangster Museum of America in downtown Hot Springs. They have a lot of exhibits around the gangsters that were here, old gambling equipment, and information about crimes that occurred in Hot Springs. So go check it out.
Maybe I should bite my tongue, say the air in my lungs. It doesn't matter what I say if we don't communicate. But you made me a believer, and I won't believe that it's the end. Please tell me all your reasons. You change your mind like the seasons once again, 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 again. But better get to run, and our time is running out. Oh honey, I'm in doubt. But baby, just say something. The silence is too loud. Where's the love when I'm around?
We are now descending down to Whittington Avenue, which is rich with baseball history. So it's time to dive into that. Back in 1886, A.G. Spalding, who was the founder of the Chicago White Stockings, and player manager Cap Anson, they introduced the idea of having players get ready and have some fitness before the start of the season. Being in Chicago, they were looking for somewhere warmer in the spring for players to be able to do this, and they came to Hot Springs for the terrain, the trails, and of course the thermal hot springs to soak in to recover. So with that, Hot Springs, Arkansas became the birthplace of spring training. By the early 20th century, many teams were holding spring training here, including the Brooklyn Dodgers, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the St. Louis Browns, obviously the Chicago White Stockings, and several others. Over the years that spring training happened in Hot Springs, at least 134 Hall of Fame players played and practiced here. Names like Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, and even Jackie Robinson prior to the color barrier, because the Negro Leagues practiced here as well.
Hall of Famer Honus Wagner left a lasting effect on Hot Springs. While playing for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Wagner was in town for spring training in 1909. He read in the local paper that Hot Springs High was forming a boys basketball team, and they needed a volunteer coach. Wagner quickly volunteered, but he found that there was one problem. They didn't have any uniforms. Wagner had connections to a sporting goods store back in Pittsburgh, so he requested that shoes and uniforms be shipped to Hot Springs immediately. When the uniforms arrived, they were of course in the Pittsburgh Pirates' signature black and gold. The Hot Springs High Trojans adopted the colors and have been black and gold ever since.
We are merging onto Whittington Avenue, and that concludes the trail portion of our run. We're going to head down here and check out Whittington Spring, which is another one of the fountains in town that you can refill water if you're out on a run or maybe a bike ride. That's good spring water. Cheers. We're heading down Whittington Avenue. There are two famous training facilities or baseball fields just down the road here. So let's go check them out. If you happen to be in town, mountain biking instead of running, Parkside Cycles is right here on Whittington Avenue in Woodfin. You can come check them out if you need some bike maintenance, maybe some nutrition. Another good place, I guess, to stop if you need something for your run. I can smell the animals. We're coming up on the Arkansas Alligator Farm, which plays a very crucial part in a story we're about to tell about Babe Ruth. All right, it's time to talk about the day that changed baseball. Back in 1918, Babe Ruth was here in Hot Springs for spring training, and at that time he was still with the Boston Red Sox, and he was a pitcher. They were shorthanded that day, so he was a last-minute addition and was put at first base. He ended up crushing 2 home runs. The first one landed in a woodpile somewhere over there, but the second one was a 573-foot home run that landed in the Alligator Farm that we passed earlier. Now, the Red Sox realized, hey, maybe this guy shouldn't be pitching, and the rest is history. Babe Ruth became a power-hitting outfielder for the New York Yankees.
The ball landed 573 feet away in one of the ponds of the Alligator Farm. Before we get back to the run, let's take a look around. Both kids and adults can enjoy the petting zoo. There are opportunities to feed animals like goats, donkeys, emus, rabbits, and other animals. But the stars of the show? The alligators. And the farm is home to roughly 200 of them. Visitors have the opportunity to both feed and hold baby alligators. Heading back outside, you can view the park's numerous adult alligators. And perhaps park staff might even regale you with stories from the park's past. All right. Time to get back to that run and finish up baseball history.
So one of the 2 famous fields I was talking about is Fogle Field. And you actually have to go through the overflow parking for the Alligator Farm to find it. So this is the site of the former Fogle Field, which is one of the 2 venues that were on this street.
The other former venue on this street was Whittington Field, which is back across the road where we told our Babe Ruth story earlier.
If you want to learn more about the history of baseball in Hot Springs as the birthplace of spring training, there's a 2015 documentary called The First Boys of Spring, narrated by Billy Bob Thornton, a Hot Springs native. And you can find it on YouTube.
If you'd rather get some exercise while exploring the history of baseball in Hot Springs, check out the Hot Springs Baseball Trail. There are 33 stops around town, each detailing either a player or location significant to the history of baseball. HotSpringsBaseballTrail.com has all the information you'll need, including multiple ways to do a self-guided tour. Let's take a moment to highlight Tiny Town. It's a quirky roadside attraction filled with hand-built miniature scenes powered by old-school push-button mechanics. It features tiny trains, tiny towns, and nostalgic Americana, all crafted from everyday household items. It's charming, weird in the best way, and feels like stepping into a living time capsule of homemade creativity and roadside Americana. Tiny Towns is great for both kids and adults.
This is the remains of the Majestic Hotel. It was built in 1902, expanded in 1926. The Boston Red Sox stayed here often, and part of their training was they would walk to and from the practice field over the mountain 4 miles every day. All right, we're starting to get close to the Vapors nightclub again, so let's revisit that story. Late morning on January 4th, 1963, an explosion rocked the nightclub. Now, there was a lot of investigation, but it was never really pinned on anyone. But the leading theory is that it was battling gangs who decided to go after each other. Now, when the explosion happened, it blew out a wall facing the road here, and that exposed all of the illegal gaming machines and tables to the street. Now, there were a lot of reporters here covering the explosion, so they took pictures and they were able to prove finally that there was illegal gambling activity happening in Hot Springs. The club did continue operating after the explosion, just as a nightclub, but no gambling. And it operated all the way into the early 1990s, when it was eventually sold and became a church for a period of time. The building was sold in 2013, and it has been reopened as a live entertainment venue.
Before we wrap up the run, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least mention the Mid-America Science Museum. It is an interactive, hands-on museum set on 21 wooded acres, boasting over 100 permanent and traveling exhibits designed to spark curiosity and learning. Exhibits are both indoors and outdoors, and since its opening in 1979, it served as a key destination for STEM education in Arkansas.
So that's a wrap on the Hot Springs Beer Run. Hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of scenery and some history. Until next time, crush trails and drink ales.